Now that we've walked through kind of the settings and operations within the application launcher and getting everything set up for how you want your software to behave, let's go ahead and get it into our dyno. Let's run through just the home tab. These are all of the settings or all of the home items that you can modulate within PowerCore. On this ribbon, let's click on connect. Let's get connected to our dyno. So of course we've connected our Ethernet port to our computer or Ethernet cable to switch so that the module can be seen by our computer. We've got a couple here on Dynojet campus, so let's grab the one, this 250i, and connect to it. Now you'll notice a lot more buttons have become active, and this is based on we have connected to a dyno, and now we can actually function and use a lot of the buttons. So first thing, we'll go to the next button here, disconnect. We could disconnect from that dyno that we just connected to. You'll also be shown errors if there are any errors present. Right now, we don't have an atmospheric device plugged into our main box, hence the error here. Next, click to sample a run, and then stop the sample. This is the same as pressing the green button on the pendant to start and stop a run. Right here, you'll notice from our previous video, our base path, where we had these dyno runs going. We're appending to that base directory. So if this just said my documents dyno runs, now this would save in the next folder, Honda, and then the model, the year, the customer. I would enter all of these things and then click save. Enter any notes, the title of the run. Maybe this is a wide open run that we just did, so 100% throttle, whatever you might want on each of these. You also have the option down here in the bottom to not graph the run. So if you just want to hit the green button, do the run, stop the run, and then not go through it in data center, and you have validated like, yes, you're getting good data. You don't have to let PowerCore save it, open it, and then come back. This is used to expedite the process should you wish. You can have that checked should you wish. And then of course, save. You can click to save this run or cancel the save if you don't want to save it and you want to discard it and redo the run. The next button here, load control. And this is if you are equipped with an eddy current brake, you can turn on and off load control. Also the brake button, should your dyno be equipped with an air brake, this would activate that air brake under your mile/hour threshold, or also if you have an eddy current brake, it will push current through that retarder and into your brake to slow the drum down gradually until it stops. Auto starting and stopping is a neat feature. You do need to configure this of what mile/hour or speed you would like to start and stop at. So if you click yes, you'll be prompted with this make run configuration and turning on and off the sampling at a specific mile/hour or speed. So if we wanted to sample between 20 and 100 miles an hour, the dyno would automatically start and stop those runs for us at that specific speed, or you could also do it based on a certain RPM. And then you'll notice that stays illuminated to indicate that it's going to start and stop or automatically start and stop between those endpoints. And if we did have a dyno and we were running right now, when you do start this or when you do exceed 20 miles per hour, you will notice the sample button goes green at that 20 mile per hour, and then it would turn off, and that save of a dyno run would pop up after we reach 100 miles per hour, just like here. Next up is load test. And to configure this, we will have to go through that in the next video. But effectively, this is used to turn on and off our step test or our sweep test or our custom road load simulation. That just activates it. And again, this is mandatory to have a retarder equipped on your dyno. Make run config. Coming from just pressing our automatic start and stop button, this is the same window, same thing that popped up when we were setting up that auto start and stop run. First up, run file information. Even though we did it by hitting that green button, start and stop sample, this is your year, make, model that you would enter. So we had that Honda CBR 600 2024. These are setting up all that individual directory for where this dyno run is going to be saved. So however your shop wants to do this, if you want to save them all in if you're only a Harley shop, your make is always going to be Harley, and your models, it could be Softails. Be as verbose or as granular as you wish here. Next up, we partially got into that automatically start and stop run in just a couple minutes ago. There's other check marks here, so we can enable a tire speed warning if we want to stay under 120 miles per hour. You can set PowerCore up to display a warning when you've exceeded a certain speed. This check mark up here at the top would be for speed differentials on dynos equipped with more than one drum. So say you're on an automotive dyno with 2 drums, you could enable a speed differential warning if one drum starts to get going faster than the other. Also down here in this control run area, you can enable your speed balancing. If you do have a multi-drum dyno, to let the retarders work together to keep the speeds of the drums in check. You have the option to turn off load control when the run starts. So if you're holding load control, you've got 20% or 10% brake on to hold you at a certain amount while you roll up to a certain throttle and get that engine loaded and ready. Then you hit the green button. When you hit that green button, load control is going to turn off and you'll just do an inertia sweep run. Likewise, on the other end, you can turn off the load when the run ends. So this would be if you do have the load on during the run, when you hit the green button to stop it or the red button, this would turn off the load control that you had been using during the run. Instead of turning off load control when the run starts, we could be sitting at 3,000 RPM. That's our load control spec point, sitting there getting up to 60% throttle. And then once we hit the start run, we could have it change over to give me 2 mph/s acceleration. So it would change to accel when the run starts, or brake percent. So change over to 10% brake. Don't hold me at 3,000 RPM anymore. Just jump over and give me 10% brake when that run starts. Next up, end sampling when the brake is pressed. So when you use your pendant, instead of always hitting the green button and then the green button again, if you hit the red button, this would also end the sample. There are scenarios where you may want to hit the brake and have it slow the vehicle down, and then you end your sample. That's totally up to you. Automatically start and stop run, we did just review. And then this load control up here, tying drum sources together. Again, that's valid for multi-drum equipped dynos. And then our set point properties. This is handy when you're trying to increase or decrease the amount of load by a certain graduation by using these arrow buttons in software, up and down, or the arrow up and down button on your pendant. So if we wanted to change how fast our up and down our decrement went in speed, well, we could go 5 miles per hour every time I hit the button for speed, or an RPM go up by, well, in this case, 25 RPM, or go up by 1,000 RPM multiplying by 1,000. That's all up to you. Likewise on acceleration, give me 0.01 mph/s, or I could give me 2 mph/s every time I hit that arrow up or down button. RPM configuration, very important to get nailed right away when you wheel a vehicle onto the dyno, is what are you going to use for RPM. RPM is mandatory to show the torque channel on a dyno run. So we can get power by just using speed and how fast the drum's going, but we must have RPM to get the torque measurement of the vehicle. So we've got several options for you. Of course, there's our inductives. That's those clothespin style clips that you can clip around a secondary wire or a primary wire. And we have 2 channels of those. So inductive 1 or 2, and then the related radio buttons for the filters. And these, depending on how noisy your vehicle is, whether you're clipped around a primary or secondary, just choose the one that gives you a nice steady RPM reading, should you be using a inductive clip. There's also the option to set this to an Elm 327 RPM, where we would be having an aftermarket or a device plugged into our OBD port, say on a vehicle. We could set it to that RPM. So we're using our OBD2 module for that engine RPM. Also, there's a hot button here for setting to Power Commander 6 RPM. If we did have a Power Commander 6 on a bike, we could also click that. Of course, we would need that device plugged in. Also important with your inductive settings is how often the plugs fire. So on a 4-stroke vehicle, every 720 degrees. If you do have a 2-stroke that you're dynoing, that would be 360. Or if you have a multi-spark discharge ignition, you may need to modulate this based on how often that plug is firing through and seeing that pulse through that secondary coil or even the primary. Gear ratio, this is if you just want to use the drum in a specific gear. Say you're going to do a run in 4th gear, and you could calibrate your vehicle. So it would, whatever RPM you're going to target on your cluster, on your OEM gauge. If you're going to target 2,000 RPM, rev the vehicle up until it's right at 2,000 and then click calibrate, and it will calibrate to the speed that the dyno is turning. It will relate that to the RPM that the vehicle would be running at during this time. So keep in mind, you cannot shift gears after this, it is only valid for that gear. Our RPM load control source, so we can use a dyno engine speed for load control. We can be dynamic on our load control source, having a dynamic gear ratio, or use a fixed gear ratio for RPM based load controlling as well. Also important are the other possibilities within the RPM sources. So a digital input, this would be if maybe you're a diesel guy and you have the optical sensor with a small piece of that metallic tape on the primary pulley, or even if you're trying to monitor supercharger RPM, you could also do so here by seeing how fast those wheels are spinning as well, with that optical eye aiming at this source piped into our digital input on the front of the Dyno RT main box. OBD2, we did just kind of run through that when setting it to the ELM 327 RPM. That's our OBD module, or in those cases, an ELM 327 device. Power Commander 5, you can select this if you are trying to get RPM over CAN on Power Commander 5 or 6 devices. Gear ratio, we also ran through selecting of that. And then the software defined channel. Once you do select that, say you had a Power Vision on a vehicle, this would be populated with the source there. So our Power Vision category, and then the channel. So it would say engine RPM right here, if we had a Power Vision 3 hooked up to a vehicle with it powered on. That would be the engine speed that would be used to calculate that torque value. Next up, wideband configuration. So if you have one of our onboard or standalone wideband sensors, wideband modules, this is where you would modulate all of your desired settings within that device. So of course we can automatically turn on and off our air pump. So when that shop air supply is hooked up and you're using that sniffer tube, that copper tube pipe down your tailpipe, you can have that toggle on and off when the engine's running, or when the drum is turning, or when engine or drum is turning. Sensor heaters. It's also important to never just leave your sensor heaters on overnight or for extended periods of time, as that can degrade the longevity of them. So if you do wish to turn that sensor on for me when the engine starts running, perfect. And then it would turn off after this 1 minute timeout. Or if you only want them to turn off, so you don't want it to turn on for you, you only want it to turn off after the engine hasn't been running for a minute, you can choose either of those. And then your air fuel type is important as well. So whether you're running gasoline or alcohol or diesel, or even a custom item such as E10, you can input the stoic point for your fuel that you want. So in the case of 10% ethanol fuel, which has a stoichiometric ratio of 14.13, you can choose each of those and add a new fuel type should you wish. So gasoline, of course, it's one of our defaults, stoichiometric ratio of 14.7 parts of air to 1 part of fuel. Those are all available for you. Analog configuration, next one here. So if you are any sort of 0 to 5 volt sensor, Dynojet sells accessory kits. So whether you're tapping into fuel pressure or you're looking to monitor boost pressure on a boosted vehicle, this is where you would configure the analog channel that you are connecting to. So your index here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, we do have 4 analog channels. So this first one, we could select from one of our presets. So maybe we connected our GM 3-bar map sensor is what we're tapping into. We have those pre-built slope and offsets for you that you can snag. And then this would be associated to the first channel on your Dyno RT main box that you plug into. And again, there's 4 of them. So each one you can select or manually input your own if you have a different sensor that you're tapping into. So if you had a translation table that you have an analog voltage of 0 to 5 volts and it varies according to a certain amount, you could edit this table and then input those analog voltages. So at 0 volts, it reads 0.25. And then at 5, it reads, 50, whatever your translation is. And then you can also interpolate in between those to fill them in for you. Or you can even import an analog voltage file should you wish, or remove this preset as well if we had named this our custom analog sensor. Continuing across the top bar here of our home tab, we can come to the custom channels button. Custom channels are user-defined expressions to generate custom streams of data or channels. You can use this to log or display on a gauge that is not included in PowerCore by default. A typical example might be mapping a manifold pressure channel, which you can obtain via Power Vision, and then subtracting the atmospheric pressure from the atmospheric stick that's equipped on your dyno to obtain a boost reading on a forced induction vehicle. You could have any sort of custom channels here, add them, import or export what your channels are. Continuing across, load control, very important for 250 equipped dynos, where you can select your source of how you would like to control the brake. So of course, none, there's no braking being applied. You can control based on RPM. So if you said, keep my load control at 4,000, you can see here clicking the arrow is a way to move that around. You can also use the arrows in the top, graduating those increments and decrements that we discussed earlier to obtain a different value. And also this is the button on your pendant, your up and down arrows, to adjust this by that same graduation. Same is true for speed. If you had, you were set at 60 miles per hour, you could increment and decrement that accordingly and select any other source as well. Next up, we have our wideband equipped devices. So if you have a standalone or a onboard Dyno RT module, Dyno RT AFR module, rather, this is where you can control the performance of that device or the characteristics of that. So you can turn on and off your air pump through that Venturi. That's important to get your flow meter set right for the amount of airflow or the amount of suction happening to pull that into the copper tube. Reference your install guide. Again, that's 35 liters per minute with your shop air equipped to pull that exhaust and those gases into the main AFR box. If you have one or two heaters, here's where you would turn them on or off. Of course, our wideband sensors need to be heated prior to them operating efficiently and to obtain an accurate reading as well. So once they are turned on, once it's been heated up long enough, this sensor ready button, should you have one displayed, would go green after it's been heated sufficiently for long enough. As we also already went over, these air pump and heater auto on and offs from our make run config. If you have your air pump toggle on and off automatically, whether that be based on the drum rolling or the engine running, of course that grays out the manual operation here. Likewise on the heater on and off, that grays them out. And then the heater auto off would be, if the engine hasn't been running for a minute, turn them off. But of course I can still manually turn each of them on. And then noteworthy down here is the type of fuel we're using that we set up earlier. So in this case, we're still on that E10. It's just a quick reference for you of my stoic point right now is 14.13 because I had selected it over here in the make run fuel type of E10. If we jump back to gasoline, we would see that toggle to gasoline right there.